"You're not human." The husky voice cut through the cabin's silence as golden eyes, still clouded by the poison, fixed on Seraphina. "The scent. It's different." She froze, the shadow root paste oozing between her trembling fingers. 3 days saving his life. And now? "If you knew who I truly am," she whispered, "you'd kill me." Orion tried to rise, but weakness pulled him back. Who are you?" But was the Lycan king ready to discover that his savior was exactly the kind of person he'd sworn to exterminate? Drop a like if you're watching on mobile and tell us where you're following this story from. The storm lashing against the slope of Whispering Peak was not natural. Seraphina knew it by the scent it carried. Ozone mixed with something older, darker. Ancient blood, corrupted magic. It was an omen she had learned to recognize in the long years of isolation, when solitude had become her only faithful companion. Her dark wooden cabin seemed smaller with each passing day, its walls lined with glass vials containing extracts, tinctures, and potions that the villagers of Shadowbrook called sorcery. To them, she was the Forest Witch, a title she bore as both a protective shield and a curse. The reputation kept the superstitious away, but also condemned her to an existence of eternal vigilance. The wind howled through ancient pines when the first crash rattled her door. Seraphina lifted her eyes from the ancient texts she studied by the hearthlight, her heart quickening. It wasn't the wind. It was something far more dangerous. The second impact was more violent, making the vials on the shelves tremble. She rose slowly, every muscle tense, as the door burst open. It hadn't been broken down. It simply gave way under the weight of something that collapsed onto her entryway floor. A body. Massive, powerful, even unconscious. The man was clad in torn black leather, soaked in a viscous, silvery substance that gleamed in the firelight. The acrid smell burned her nostrils, and Seraphina recognized it immediately. Liquid silver. A legendary poison, deemed incurable, used only by elite assassins who possessed the kingdom's deadliest formulas. Even unconscious and poisoned, the stranger radiated a presence that made all of Seraphina's primal instincts scream in alarm. He wasn't human. The scent of wild pine and tempered steel, even beneath the stench of infection, betrayed a high-ranking Lycan. Very high. "Curse it," she whispered, but her hands were already moving before her mind could fully process the danger. Years of isolation had dulled her capacity for self-preservation when it came to aiding the wounded. Dragging him inside was harder than she'd anticipated. His body was pure muscle, and even semi-conscious, he emanated a feverish heat that burned through the fabric of his clothes. Seraphina positioned him near the hearth, her breath ragged from the effort. That's when she saw the scars. These were no ordinary scars. They were battle marks, some ancient, others fresh, each one telling the story of a life dedicated to combat. But there was something more. A specific mark on his right shoulder, partially hidden by a long diagonal gash. The royal crest. Seraphina felt her blood run cold. This was no mere Lycan. The aristocratic features, even contorted by pain. The royal crest, the bearing even unconscious. This was Orion, the Lycan king. The ruthless ruler known for hunting those who practiced the dark arts. The very man who had signed death decrees against people like her. Can you even believe this twist? Hit that like button if you're shook. The irony was cruel and palpable. She was saving the executioner of her own kind. For a long moment, Seraphina stood motionless, watching the most powerful man in the kingdom groan in pain in her humble cabin. It would be so easy to let the liquid silver take its course. No one would ever know. The kingdom would be rid of its witch hunter, and people like her could breathe a little more freely. What would you have done in Seraphina's shoes? Drop a comment below and let me know. But when Orion groaned again, a low, agonizing sound that seemed to come from the depths of his soul, something within her broke. It didn't matter who he was or what he represented. In that moment, he was just a wounded being in need of help. "May the gods forgive me," she murmured, quickly turning to her supplies. The first 24 hours were a hell of uncertainty. The liquid silver coursed through Orion's veins like acid, burning everything in its path. His body temperature wildly fluctuated between scalding fevers and chills that made his teeth audibly chatter. He constantly raved, muttering names Seraphina didn't know, battle strategies, and occasionally, words in ancient tongues she recognized from forbidden texts. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic chapters of Lycan King, the Healer and the Crown. Seraphina worked tirelessly. Her lineage was a closely guarded secret. She was an Omega, a descendant of an ancient line of healers systematically erased from history. She didn't use magic, as the ignorant believed, but a primitive form of science that combined advanced botanical knowledge with an intimate understanding of Lycan physiology. Shadowroot was her riskiest gamble. Lethal in large doses, it was the only known substance capable of neutralizing the silver in a Lycan's bloodstream. Preparing the correct dosage demanded all her experience and no small amount of faith. As she applied compresses of the dark paste to his chest, Seraphina couldn't help but notice the details of his face. Even contorted by pain, there was a severe beauty in his features, the strong line of his jaw, the dark lashes that contrasted with his now closed golden eyes, the scars that told stories of survival against all odds. "Who did this to you?" she murmured, carefully cleaning the venom from a particularly deep wound on his shoulder. "And why did you bring this storm to my doorstep?" As if answering her unspoken question, Orion opened his eyes for the first time in 36 hours. His gaze was cloudy, unfocused by the poison, yet there was an intensity within them that made Seraphina instinctively recoil. "Water," he managed to rasp, his voice rough as gravel. Seraphina brought a bowl of fresh water, helping him drink slowly. His hands brushed hers as he held the bowl, and a strange electric current passed between them. She pulled away quickly, attributing the sensation to exhaustion and stress. "Where am I?" Orion tried to focus on her, but the poison still severely compromised his vision. "You are safe," was all Seraphina said. She couldn't reveal her location, not yet. "You were poisoned. Liquid silver." His expression hardened, even through the haze of pain. "Impossible. Only elite assassins have access to it," she finished. "I know. The question is, who wants you dead enough to use something so rare and expensive?" Orion attempted to sit up, but Seraphina gently pressed him back down. "Do not move. The venom is still in your system. Any excessive effort could cause it to spread more quickly. Who are you?" He struggled to keep his eyes open. "Why do you help me? Does it matter now?" Seraphina returned to preparing another dose of the antidote. "You were dying on my doorstep. I'm not the kind of person who leaves someone to perish when I can help." "Even knowing who I am?" The question made her pause. "And who do you think you are?" A bitter smile crossed his lips. "You don't recognize me?" "Should I?" Orion studied her face, seeing what he could through his compromised vision. There was something about her, the way she moved with economic precision, the confidence with which she handled substances that could kill him with the wrong dosage, the scent he couldn't quite identify through his damaged senses. "I don't know," he finally admitted. "Perhaps it's better this way." On the second day, there was a subtle but significant shift. Orion's fever broke during the pre-dawn hours, leaving him deeply weak but free from the constant agony that had tormented him. His vision, however, remained severely compromised by the poison, and his sense of smell, so crucial for a Lycan, was temporarily all but destroyed by the silver. "It's strange," he said, as Seraphina brought him a hearty broth to aid his recovery. "I can't see you clearly, nor truly scent you, yet there's something about your presence." "What do you mean?" Seraphina sat on a nearby chair, maintaining a respectful distance. It's as if the beast within me, which was howling with pain and rage, simply calms when you are near. Orion tilted his head, confused. I've never experienced anything like it. Don't forget to like this video if you're feeling the tension build between them. Serafina felt a pang in her chest, a mix of pleasure and alarm. What he described sounded dangerously close to the first signs of a mate bond recognition, but that was impossible. She had taken herbal suppressants for years, suppressing her omega nature. Besides, he was the Lycan king, and she was nobody. Perhaps it's just the relief of being alive, she suggested, keeping her voice neutral. Perhaps. He didn't sound convinced. They spent the following hours in a strangely intimate conversation. In the darkness of his compromised vision, Orion shared things he had never told anyone. The overwhelming burden of the crown, the loneliness of always having to be strong for everyone, the constant paranoia that came with power. He spoke of shadowy traitors in his own council, of threats emerging from unexpected places, of the suffocating responsibility to protect an entire kingdom. In return, Serafina, never revealing her name or true nature, shared her own solitude. She spoke of the life of an isolated healer, of being misunderstood and feared for gifts that were, in truth, blessings, of the pain of never belonging anywhere, of always being a stranger observing life from afar. Are you shipping Serafina and Orion yet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You speak like someone who carries deep scars, Orion observed during one of their nocturnal talks. Everyone carries scars, Serafina replied softly. The difference is, some are visible and others are not. Are yours of the second kind? A long pause. Mostly. There was a hypnotic quality to those conversations in the darkness. Without the normal visual and social barriers, they connected on a purely emotional level. Orion found himself eagerly anticipating the moments she would return with food or medicine, just to hear her calm, intelligent voice. Serafina, in turn, found herself genuinely interested in the complexities of the man behind the crown, a surprisingly reflective and weary being, beneath all that raw strength. How long have you lived here alone? He asked on the third night. Too many years to count, was her evasive reply. Don't you miss companionship? Serafina hesitated. I've learned to find peace in solitude. It's safer that way. Safer from what? From people who don't understand that different doesn't mean dangerous. Orion processed this in silence. There were layers to her words he couldn't fully decipher, but he felt the real pain behind them. I used to think strength was enough to solve any problem, he admitted. But being here, dependent on a stranger's kindness, it made me realize there are some problems that can't be solved with claws and fangs. And what kinds would those be? Loneliness, misunderstandings, fear. A pause. Perhaps even prejudice. By the fourth day, Orion had regained enough strength to move on his own, though he was still far from his normal condition. His vision was gradually improving, allowing him to distinguish shapes and movements, though details still eluded him. Have you ever realized something profound from an unexpected encounter? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying this epic journey. I must leave, he announced on the morning of the fourth day, though his voice held reluctance. You're still weak, Serafina protested. The liquid silver might have residual effects. My pursuers might find this place. If they do, you'll be in danger. Orion struggled to stand, determination replacing physical weakness. You've already risked too much for me. Serafina felt an inexplicable pang of loss. In the past 4 days, she had grown accustomed to his presence. The cabin would feel terribly empty after he left. I will return, Orion promised, his voice carrying an intensity that made her look directly at him. Even with his vision still compromised, he seemed to be trying to memorize every detail he could make out about her. Once this situation is resolved, I will come back to properly reward the woman who saved my life. He drew an ornate dagger from his belt, something Seraphina hadn't noticed before. The hilt was crafted with the royal crest of Valoria, a piece worth more than the entire cabin they were in. "Keep this," he said, pressing the weapon into her hands, "as a promise that I will keep my word. I can't accept this. It's far too valuable. Not as valuable as the life you saved." His fingers brushed hers as he ensured she held the dagger. Again, that strange electric current passed between them, stronger this time. "Keep it. When I return, this is how you will recognize me." Orion left before dawn, disappearing into the morning mist like a shadow. Seraphina stood at the cabin door for a long time afterward, holding the royal dagger and wondering if she would ever see him again. The calm, however, was short-lived. 3 days after Orion's departure, the village of Shadowbrook discovered that the Lycan king had been in the region. Rumors spread like wildfire through dry straw. The king had been seen leaving from the direction of the mountain, where there was only one dwelling: the Forest Witch's cabin. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single dramatic moment. Fear and superstition, already fueled by the plague sweeping through the northern packs, found a perfect focus. If the king had visited the witch and then left, she had obviously done something terrible to him, bewitched him, wounded him, or worse. The mob formed as dusk fell on the third day. Seraphina saw them coming through the window, flaming torches cutting through the gloom, furious voices carried on the wind. She could have fled. She should have fled. But years of isolation had made the cabin more than just her home. It was her sanctuary, her identity, her life's work. "Witch!" yelled Aldrich Stone, the village smith, as the mob surrounded her property. "You hexed our king. What have you done with him?" "I helped him," Seraphina shouted back, standing firm on her doorstep. "He was wounded, poisoned. I healed him." "Liar." An elderly woman Seraphina recognized as Alara Vance, one of the village merchants, pointed an accusing finger. "You concocted the liquid silver. You're trying to destroy our leaders with your dark arts. That's ridiculous. I saved his life." But fear is a powerful force, and logic rarely prevails against it. The mob wasn't interested in explanations. They wanted a scapegoat for the kingdom's woes. "Burn the cabin!" someone yelled. "Burn it all! Leave nothing for her sorcery!" Seraphina tried to defend her home, but they were too many. Rough men dragged her outside while others set fire to everything she owned. Decades of research, carefully prepared remedies, irreplaceable books, a lifetime of memories. She watched it all burn, tears silently streaming down her face, not just for her material losses, but for the betrayal. Some of those very people had benefited from her cures over the years. Discreetly, of course. When they needed help, the village doctors couldn't provide. Is this level of ingratitude unbelievable, or what? Let me know in the comments if you've ever felt this betrayed. "To the square," Aldrich Stone commanded. "We'll see if she's so powerful when she faces proper justice." Shadowbrook's public square at midnight was a sinister place. The mob had swelled, fueled by rumors and the emotion of the moment. Seraphina was forced to kneel in the center, while furious voices screamed increasingly fantastic accusations. "She's working with the kingdom's enemies. That's why the plague is spreading. She bewitched the king to control him." Seraphina looked up at the faces distorted by rage and torchlight. "You know me," she said, her voice carrying across the square. "Some of you came to me in secret when your children were ill. Others when your wives suffered pains no one else could relieve. I never asked for anything in return, but silence. I never used my knowledge to harm anyone." "Witchcraft!" spat a voice. "She admits to practicing the dark arts. I am no witch. Seraphina rose to her feet, defying the mob even with her hands bound. I am a healer, a scholar. Everything I do comes from plants, from observation, from knowledge passed down through generations. There is no magic in it, only science you are too ignorant to comprehend. If you're rooting for Seraphina, smash that like button. Her words only amplified their fury. For people raised on superstition, the notion that their fears were rooted in ignorance was more offensive than any accusation of sorcery. Aldrich Stone hoisted a stone. May the gods judge if you are guilty or innocent. The stone flew, and Seraphina closed her eyes, bracing for impact. The square echoed not with stone on flesh, but metal on stone, then a blade's clatter. Stop! The voice resonated with absolute authority, turning the mob as one. Royal guards emerged from darkness, armor gleaming under torchlight, swords drawn. Captain Marcus Thorne, battle-scarred and middle-aged, strode to the square's center. His eyes swept the scene with poorly concealed disgust. By order of His Majesty, Lycan King Orion, all must disperse immediately, he announced. This woman is under royal protection. The mob hesitated, confused. Aldrich Stone, clutching another stone, dared to question. Royal protection? But she's a forest witch. She bewitched our king. What's your take on this? Comment below. Marcus Thorne approached Aldrich Stone with measured, dangerous steps. Are you accusing His Majesty of being weak enough to be bewitched by a solitary woman? The smith swallowed hard, realizing the trap in his words. No, sir, but... No buts, Marcus Thorne cut him off. All of you will return home. Now. Any further disturbance related to this woman will be considered treason against the crown. The mob reluctantly dispersed, but Seraphina soon realized this was not the romantic rescue she had hoped for. Marcus Thorne approached her with the expression of someone fulfilling an unpleasant task. You are accused of attempted murder against His Majesty, he declared, producing heavy handcuffs. By order of the High Council, you will be transported to Ironhold City for trial. The shock was like a physical punch. Attempted murder? But I saved his life. Like this if you're shocked too. That will be determined by the tribunal, Marcus Thorne replied dryly, snapping the cuffs onto her wrists. Resistance will only make things worse. As she was led to the prison carriage, Seraphina looked back one last time. Her cabin was merely embers and smoldering ashes against the night sky. Everything she had worked for, everything she possessed was gone, and the man she saved had seemingly condemned her. The journey to Ironhold City was a 3-day nightmare. Seraphina traveled chained in the back of a windowless carriage, receiving only water and stale bread at irregular intervals. Marcus Thorne had specific orders to treat her as a dangerous prisoner, and he followed those orders to the letter. When they finally reached Ironhold City, the stench of political intrigue was stronger than that of a wet wolf, an acrid blend of ambition, fear, and corruption that seemed to permeate every stone of the city walls. Let us know if you're watching this epic drama unfold from your phone or tablet by dropping a like. The Ironhold Castle dungeons were a place where sunlight never reached. Seraphina was thrown into a small, damp cell, with only a moldy straw bed and a bucket for her needs. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had gone from savior to prisoner in less than a week. The first days were the worst. Without her remedies and tinctures, without access to the herbs she used to keep her omega nature suppressed, Seraphina felt subtle changes beginning in her body. Her senses sharpened slightly, and a constant unease plagued her, clear signs the herbal suppressants were leaving her system. The only solace came from an unexpected source. On the 5th day of her imprisonment, a guard appeared at her cell. "Do you possess healing knowledge?" he asked without preamble. "I do," Seraphina responded cautiously. "There are prisoners on the lower levels. Some are gravely ailing. The prison healers say there's nothing to be done. The guard hesitated. If you could help, perhaps we might gain something from it. Thus began Serafina's tenure as the unofficial healer of the dungeons. Under strict supervision, she was permitted to treat other prisoners with strange herbs that were brought at her specific request. It was deplorable work. Men wounded from skirmishes, sick from neglect, some clearly innocent of any real crime. If you're invested in Serafina's journey, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a moment. But it was purpose. It was useful. And it kept her mind from dwelling on the fact that Orion, the Lycan king who had promised to return and reward her, had seemingly forgotten her existence entirely. 3 months passed in this manner. Serafina established a routine. She treated prisoners during the day, studied the limited medicinal plants available at night by the flickering light of a solitary candle, and tried not to think of what the future held. Throughout this time, Orion remained consumed by affairs of state. The assassination attempt had sparked a massive investigation into possible traitors within his council. He sincerely believed his mysterious savior had vanished, possibly killed by those who had poisoned him to silence her. The idea that she could be in the very dungeons of his castle never occurred to him. The turn of events arrived on a dismal autumn morning, when an epidemic of the same liquid silver struck the castle's children's wing. Dr. Aldwin Vance, the royal physician, was in a state of panic. 5 children, offspring of minor nobles residing within the castle, had been poisoned overnight. The same venom that had nearly claimed the Lycan king, but in smaller concentrations, likely intended to cause a slow, agonizing demise. "Your Majesty," Aldwin Vance said, his hands trembling as he reported the situation, "I have tried everything. Every known antidote, every traditional cure. They are dying, and there is nothing more I can do." Orion watched the children through the infirmary window. The youngest was no more than 5, her tiny body convulsing with fevers that would climb until they claimed her life. Rage burned in his chest. To use children as pawns was a depravity even his cruelest enemies had never attempted before. "What do you think of this villainous act? Drop a comment below." "There must be something," he said through gritted teeth. "Someone in the Valoria kingdom must know how to combat this poison. Someone made it. Someone can unmake it." Aldwin Vance hesitated. There is a possibility, Your Majesty, but..." "Speak." "The prisoner in the Ironhold Castle dungeons. The supposed forest witch. She has been treating other prisoners with remarkable success. Some of the guards say she can heal things our traditional healers cannot." A pause. "If she truly attempted to poison you, she might know how to reverse the effects." Orion's expression hardened. The woman who had supposedly tried to kill him might also save these innocent children. The irony was bitter. "Bring her," he commanded. "If she can help, I will authorize it, but keep guards with her at all times." Serafina was asleep when the guards came for her. 3 months of imprisonment had left their marks. She was thinner, paler, but a steely determination now burned in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Don't you just hate it when you're finally getting some sleep and the guards show up? Hit that like button if you agree. As she was led through the castle corridors, she couldn't help but observe the opulence around her. Rich tapestries, marble statues, golden chandeliers, a stark contrast to the damp dungeons where she had spent the last few months. The royal infirmary was an environment she hadn't expected to see. Clean, well lit, with medical equipment that represented considerable advancements compared to the primitive conditions she knew. But all these advantages were doing little for the 5 children groaning in pain on the beds. The scent hit Serafina the moment she entered the room. Liquid silver, no doubt, but in a different concentration than what she had treated before. Her hands moved instinctively, checking pulses, observing breathing patterns, assessing the poison's progression. "How long?" she asked Dr. Aldwin Vance, who watched her nervously. Approximately 16 hours since the first symptoms, he replied. Serafina nodded, her mind already calculating dosages and preparations. It's reversible, but we'll need to act quickly. The concentration is lower than what I've treated before, which is an advantage, but children are more vulnerable. It was then that it happened. As she leaned over the smallest child, a golden-haired girl who could not have been more than 4, Serafina felt something break inside her. 3 months of forced suppression had worn down her defenses, and the innocent suffering before her was the final straw. Oh no, the feels. What do you think will happen next? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more epic drama. Her Omega instinct, suppressed by years of carefully calibrated herbal suppressants, shattered all barriers at once. It wasn't just the healing she applied. It was the comforting pheromones she unconsciously released, naturally designed to soothe and mend. The effect was immediate. The children stopped thrashing, their breathing calmed, and visible relief washed over their small faces. And it was at that exact moment that Orion entered the room. The scent hit him like a physical hammer. Not a witch's scent, not a common human's scent, an Omega's scent, the scent of home, the scent of completeness. The world stopped. All of Orion's senses, honed beyond normal human capacity, focused on the woman leaning over the child's bed. Dark hair fell like a curtain. Precise hands applied a paste he immediately recognized. The delicate profile partially turned towards him. It was her, the mysterious healer from Serafina's cabin on Whispering Peak. And she was his destined mate. The realization was both devastating and marvelous. For months, he had searched for the woman who saved his life, fearing she was dead. For months, he had felt an inexplicable void, a restlessness that no royal duty or achievement could fill. And all this time, she had been here, in the Ironhold Castle dungeons, treated as a criminal. Serafina. Her name came out as a whisper, but she heard him. Slowly she turned, and their eyes met across the room. Time stopped for both of them. Orion saw recognition pass through her gaze, followed by a complex mix of relief, hurt, and something deeper, something that made his heart painfully race. Serafina saw the man she had cared for during 4 crucial days, the man who had promised to return and reward her, the man who had allowed her to be imprisoned and forgotten. But above all, she saw in his golden eyes the same shocking realization she was experiencing. The mate bond, suppressed by circumstance and misunderstanding, exploded between them with a breathless force. Like and subscribe if you're invested in their story. Dr. Aldwin Vance, oblivious to the unfolding drama, watched nervously. Your Majesty, the prisoner seems to be making progress with the children. Orion forced himself out of the trance. There were urgent matters to resolve, but the conversation he needed to have with Serafina would have to wait. Continue, he said, his voice hoarse. Do whatever is necessary. Serafina, though shaken by the revelation, forced herself to focus on the children. This was bigger than her personal drama. Innocent lives depended on her expertise. For the next 6 hours, she worked meticulously, preparing individualized antidotes for each child based on their weight, age, and the poison's progression. Orion remained in the room the entire time, watching her every move with an intensity that made the air practically vibrate. When the last child finally drifted into a peaceful, healing sleep, Serafina turned to face the man who was both her Lycan king and her destined mate. We need to talk, Orion said, his voice heavy with emotional weight. Yes, Serafina agreed. We do. But before they could take a single step towards resolving their profound misunderstandings, the infirmary doors burst open violently. Lord Varric Thorn, Orion's uncle and a senior council member, strode in, accompanied by several guards. His face was twisted with a mixture of rage and calculated triumph. Your Majesty, he declared loudly enough to ensure everyone in the chamber could hear. "We have just uncovered the terrible truth. This woman isn't healing these children. She's using blood magic to deceive their senses." "What?" Orion spun around, confused and furious. "The analysis of her cures reveals components that could only come from forbidden rituals," Varric continued, producing a scroll that he claimed contained damning evidence. "She is manipulating your perception of reality, Your Majesty. Everything you think you've seen is an illusion." It was an elaborate lie, yet brilliantly constructed. Varric knew that an intelligent Omega with advanced medical knowledge posed a threat to the old order he had helped build in the Valoria Kingdom. If she were to become queen, changes would follow. Changes that could destabilize the power of traditional families like his own. "This is ridiculous," Seraphina began, but Varric cut her off. "Silence, Forest Witch. Guards, seize her. She is using sorcery in His Majesty's presence." The situation exploded into chaos. Orion, driven by the protective instinct that accompanies a mate bond, physically placed himself between Seraphina and the guards, openly defying his own counsel. "No one touches her," he roared, his golden eyes blazing with a dangerous light. "She saved these children. She saved my life." "Your Majesty, you are under her influence," Varric pressed. "Can't you see that you are being manipulated?" "The only manipulator here is you, Uncle." Orion took a threatening step towards Lord Varric Thorn. "Questioning my judgment, my ability to rule." But it was Seraphina who interrupted the escalating tension. With the dignity of a queen who had never been officially crowned, she stepped forward. "Enough," she said, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. "I will not require physical protection. Lord Varric Thorn is making serious accusations about my methods." "Very well." She turned to face the counselor directly. "I demand a trial by acumen. Leave a like if you're watching this on your phone and comment where you're following this story." A deadly silence fell over the room. The trial by acumen was an ancient tradition, rarely invoked, where an accused could prove their innocence by publicly demonstrating their skills. It was risky. Failure meant immediate execution. "I will prove my methods are based on science, not magic," Seraphina continued. "And in the process, I will demonstrate that the true danger to this kingdom comes from within the castle itself." Lord Varric Thorn hesitated. He had not expected her to be so bold, but now he was committed to his course of action. "I accept," he said finally. "May the gods judge the truth. Who else is on the edge of their seat? Don't forget to like this chapter." What neither of them realized was that Seraphina had already begun her real investigation. During the months treating prisoners, she had noticed strange patterns. Some arrived with injuries that seemed to have been purposefully infected with substances she recognized from her research into poisons. Now, with access to the Royal Infirmary's resources, she could finally test her theories. The trial by acumen was set for 3 weeks later, during the harsh winter that settled over Valoria Kingdom. Seraphina was transferred from the Ironhold Castle dungeons to royal chambers, technically an honor, but in practice, a more comfortable prison. She was under constant surveillance, but at least she had access to books, basic lab equipment, and decent food. The emotional distance between her and Orion, however, was as vast as an ocean. She was deeply wounded by the imprisonment, and the months of suffering that could have been avoided had he simply recognized her. Orion, in turn, was consumed by overwhelming guilt. How could he have failed so completely the most important person in his life? The attempts at reconciliation were awkward and painful. Orion tried to visit her regularly, but their conversations were formal, cautious. The mate bond created a constant sexual tension between them, but the emotional hurt functioned as an insurmountable barrier. What are your thoughts on their complicated bond? Leave a comment. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Seraphina asked on one of the first nights after the transfer. "When you were in my cabin, why did you lie?" "I didn't lie," Orion responded, seated in a chair distant from the bed where she was. "I simply didn't say. There were..." Reasons. What reasons could possibly justify letting me believe you were just a wounded Lycan? Orion struggled with the answer. I wanted you to help me out of compassion, not obligation or fear. When you didn't know who I was, you treated me like a man, not like a crown. And was that worth 3 months in the dungeons? The silence that followed was answer enough. Gradually, however, the reconnection began. It happened in the small things. Orion bringing rare books he knew she would appreciate. Seraphina sharing insights about the cases she had treated in the dungeons. Slowly, they began to rediscover the emotional intimacy they had shared during those 4 crucial days in Seraphina's cabin. One evening, 2 weeks after the trial by Acumen had been set, Orion found Seraphina working in the small laboratory established for her. Flasks and instruments were spread across the table, and she was deeply concentrated on what looked like complex chemical analysis. "What are you doing?" he asked, approaching. "Analyzing samples," Seraphina replied without looking up. "Tissue samples from some of the prisoners I treated. Something was bothering me about the infection patterns I saw." "And what did you discover?" Seraphina finally met his gaze. These infections were not accidental. Someone was testing variations of poisons on prisoners, using them as test subjects. Orion's expression hardened. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely." She pointed to a series of carefully labeled samples. Different concentrations of the same base substance. Someone was experimenting, refining the formula. For what purpose? To create the version used on you. And then, the version that nearly killed those children. Seraphina paused. "Orion, who else knew you were traveling through the Whispering Peak region that night?" The question struck him like lightning. Orion mentally reviewed the events of that fateful day. Only the High Council knew the route. It was confidential. "Then the traitor you seek is within your own council." They stared at each other across the makeshift laboratory, the gravity of the situation settling between them. This wasn't just about clearing Seraphina's name. It was about exposing a conspiracy that reached the very heart of the Valoria kingdom. "There's more," Seraphina said softly. "I've discovered something about the components of liquid silver that might interest you." She moved to another bench, where samples of the original poison that had nearly killed Orion lay. The base of the formula contains a very specific mineral isotope. It's not something found just anywhere. Where does it come from? From the Ironheart mines. There is only one family in the Valoria kingdom that holds exclusive rights to those mines. Orion felt his blood run cold. Lord Varric Thorn's family. Exactly. In that moment, watching Seraphina work with scientific precision to unravel the conspiracy that had almost destroyed them both, Orion felt a fundamental shift. It wasn't just physical attraction or their mate bond. It was deep, genuine admiration for her intelligence, her courage, and her dedication to the truth. "Seraphina," he said softly. "Yes. I am truly sorry. For everything. For the months you suffered because of my blindness. For not recognizing you immediately when they brought you to Ironhold Castle. For," he hesitated, "for nearly losing the most important person in my life because of politics and pride." Seraphina stopped what she was doing. When she turned to him, there were tears in her eyes, but also something softer. "I recognize the man I met in the cabin," she said. "The one who admitted force isn't always the answer, the one who listened without judgment. Like this scene? Hit the like button." They neared slowly, like two wounded animals learning trust. Orion offered his hand. Seraphina took it without hesitation. Can I hold you?" he asked, his voice heavy with vulnerability. Seraphina moved close, letting his arms envelop her. The embrace began cautious, then desperate, as if reclaiming lost months. "Never again," Orion murmured in her hair. Never again will I let anyone hurt you. Never again will I doubt you. And I will never run again, Seraphina replied. When this ends, we must be true. No secrets, no fear. Comment your thoughts below. Their reconciliation, however, was interrupted by an urgent knock. A guard entered, clearly agitated. "Your Majesty," he gasped. "Lord Varric requests an urgent audience. He says he has new evidence about the prisoner's case." Orion and Seraphina exchanged glances. "What kind of evidence?" Orion asked. "He didn't say, Your Majesty, but he seemed triumphant." "It's a trap," Seraphina said as the guard left. "He discovered our investigation." "Probably, but refusing him would seem suspicious." Orion weighed his options. "We'll play this game to the end." The day of the trial dawned, a snowstorm blanketing Ironhold Castle in silent white. The Great Hall became an impromptu court. High Council seated, lesser nobles filling the space. Seraphina entered in a simple, elegant dress, head held high with dignity. Orion watched from the throne, forced to seem neutral, though every instinct screamed to protect her. Lord Varric rose to present his evidence. He produced scrolls he claimed were confessions from prisoners Seraphina experimented on. Elaborate forgeries, convincing to those who wished to believe. "This woman isn't just a forest witch," he declared, his voice echoing. "She's a cold killer using cures as disguise for horrific experiments. Subscribe now for more drama." Murmurs of shock and revulsion echoed through the crowd. When Seraphina's turn came, she moved calmly to the hall's center. "My lords and my ladies," she began. "Lord Varric is correct. I am not what I appear to be." A deadly silence fell over the hall. "I am not a mere human healer," she continued. "I am Seraphina of the Silver Moon lineage, last descendant of Omega healers systematically exterminated because their knowledge was deemed too dangerous." Gasps echoed through the hall. The Silver Moon lineage was legend, powerful healers supposedly extinct decades ago. "My ancestors didn't practice magic," Seraphina said, her voice carrying power and authority. "They practiced advanced science, passed down through generations. Knowledge that combined botany, chemistry, and a deep understanding of Lycan physiology." She turned to face Lord Varric directly. "Lord Varric knows this truth better than anyone, because it was your family that led the massacre of my lineage, fearing that our knowledge would threaten the medical monopoly of traditional families." "Lies!" Varric roared, but there was sweat on his brow. "Oh, really?" Seraphina produced her own evidence, carefully analyzed and documented samples. "Then perhaps you can explain why the liquid silver that nearly killed our Lycan king contains mineral isotopes found exclusively in your private Ironheart mines." The hall erupted in commotion. Varric paled, realizing he had been cornered. "Even more interesting," Seraphina continued relentlessly, "is the fact that the poison experiments I discovered in the dungeons follow the exact pattern needed to develop the formula used against His Majesty." "You can't prove anything," Varric shouted, but the panic was obvious in his voice. "I can prove everything." Seraphina turned to the council. "My lords, I invite you to examine the evidence, but first, allow me to demonstrate something interesting about antidotes." Without warning, she withdrew a small dagger from her sleeve and made a swift cut across her own palm. Bright red blood welled and trailed down her fingers. "This blade was dipped in a liquid silver solution," she announced calmly, as the room watched in horror. "At normal concentration, I should be dead within minutes." Cries of alarm echoed, but Seraphina raised her unblemished hand to silence them. "But for months, I have been taking microdoses of an antidote of my own creation. I am not immune, but I am resistant." To demonstrate her point, she applied a clear paste to the wound. In seconds, the bleeding stopped, and the flesh began to visibly heal. "This is science," she declared. "Not magic. Knowledge." The The same knowledge that saved our Lycan king's life and the innocent children used as pawns in this game. Loving this dramatic reveal? Hit like and subscribe for more epic twists. The demonstration was dramatic and effective, but what happened next, no one expected. Varric Thorn, cornered and desperate, revealed the true extent of his madness. "You want the truth?" he roared, producing a dagger of his own. But this one dripped with a substance that made the air hiss where it touched. Concentrated poison in a dosage that would kill instantly. Yes, I knew of her lineage the entire time. Yes, I ordered the massacre of her family. And yes, I tried to kill my own nephew. His eyes gleamed with fanaticism, because some traditions are too sacred to be changed by a presumptuous Omega and her blasphemous knowledge. Can you even believe this betrayal? Drop a comment if you saw this coming. Varric moved with surprising speed for a man his age, lunging at Seraphina with the poisoned blade. But Orion, driven by instincts faster than thought, intercepted the blow. The blade plunged deep into his shoulder, and the concentrated liquid silver began to spread immediately through his system. Orion fell heavily, convulsing as the substance burned through his veins. The silence in the hall was deafening. Everyone expected the forest witch to flee, to use the chaos to escape. Instead, Seraphina did something none of them anticipated. She took command. Who else got chills when Seraphina stepped up? If you're rooting for her, smash that like button. With an icy authority that echoed through the entire hall, she ordered, "Guards, hold His Majesty's arms and legs firm. Dr. Aldwin Vance, I need boiling water, sterilized needles, and clean cloths. Now." Kneeling on the cold stone floor beside the fallen Lycan king, Seraphina tore open his clothes to expose the wound. The liquid silver was spreading rapidly, dark veins already reaching towards his heart in minutes. "I cannot merely neutralize the poison this time," she murmured, more to herself than to the stunned observers. "The concentration is too high. I must physically remove it before it reaches vital organs." What followed was an impromptu surgical procedure performed on the throne room floor, in full view of the entire court. Seraphina worked with deadly precision, using her intimate understanding of Lycan anatomy to trace and extract the poison through precise incisions. More importantly, she channeled the energy of their destined mate bond to stabilize Orion. It was something she had never attempted before, using the emotional connection between them as a medical tool. But instinct guided her. The operation lasted 2 agonizing hours. Throughout that time, Seraphina maintained absolute concentration, her hands never trembling, her voice remaining steady as she gave instructions to the improvised assistants. When she finally sat back, exhausted but victorious, Orion was breathing steadily. The poison had been removed, the wounds cleaned and closed. He would survive. This is the moment we've been waiting for. How epic was that? Don't forget to subscribe for more. The sight of the forest witch saving the Lycan king for the second time, now in front of the entire court, shattered any remaining skepticism. There was no denying her skill, her dedication, or her innocence. Varric, meanwhile, had been overpowered by the guards. Facing imprisonment and execution for treason, he completely lost his composure. "She will destroy everything," he screamed as he was dragged out. "An Omega with such power will change the natural order. You will see." His words echoed through the hall, but now they sounded like the delusions of a defeated man, not terrifying prophecies. Orion's recovery was slow, marking winter's end and spring's dawn. For weeks, Seraphina remained by his side, meticulously monitoring his healing. In these quiet moments, their emotional connection truly rebuilt. "Like if you're cheering." "Why save me again?" Orion asked one afternoon, finally sitting unassisted. "After all you endured because of me." "Because you did the same for me," Seraphina replied. "You intercepted that blade, knowing it could kill you." "That's different. I am your destined mate. It was my duty to protect you." and you are my destined mate. It was my duty to save you." She smiled softly. Perhaps it's time to stop separating duties and feelings. Perhaps they are the same. What do you think? Comment. When Orion finally rose to crown her, it was not merely as his destined mate, but as the Grand Healer of Valoria. This title, created specifically for her, recognized her heritage and profound contributions. Seraphina didn't abandon her Forest Witch label. She redefined it. Fear morphed into reverence. People began to grasp that different wasn't dangerous, that advanced knowledge wasn't sorcery. Together, they reshaped Valoria Kingdom's fundamental laws. Omegas gained intellectual power positions, not just reproductive ones. Natural sciences were not only permitted, but actively encouraged. Hospitals were established, allowing trained healers to work openly. Crucially, they set a precedent. Effective governance demanded strength and wisdom, power and compassion. Their love, forged in liquid silver and fire, tested by betrayal and misunderstanding, emerged stronger. They learned true power wasn't in claws or crown, but in healing what seemed broken, a poisoned body, a prejudiced mind, or a kingdom fractured by fear. Follow for more. In silent nights later, walking the castle gardens now flourishing with medicinal plants among traditional roses, Seraphina sometimes gazed at the Lycan king beside her, recalling the wounded warrior at her door during that furious storm. "You know what impresses me most about our story?" she asked on one walk. "What?" Orion inquired, intertwining their fingers. "That it began with you nearly dying on my doorstep, and ended with us building a kingdom where no one dies for being different." Orion stopped, turning to her, his silver eyes gleaming. "It didn't end," he said softly. "It's only just beginning." And he was right, for as spring turned to summer, and summer to autumn, and the cycle of seasons continued, the legacy they built spread beyond the borders of the Valoria kingdom. Other kingdoms began to question their own traditions, to examine their own fears. The Forest Witch and the Lycan King she saved proved that sometimes the best stories are those where love doesn't just conquer all, it transforms everything in the process. If you love this story of how true love can transform not just two destined souls, but an entire kingdom, subscribe for more epic Lycan King romances. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss new stories about destined mates who defy fate itself. Remember, true power isn't in being the strongest, but in having the courage to heal what seems impossible to fix.